Hi, this is Pete Thompson. Today we're going to talk about hand and power tool safety. In our regular jobs, we probably often use a hand or power tool, and there's a lot of hazards that are generated when you use those tools. Some of the things that are listed there are certainly included scrapes, bruises, hearing problems from a loud noise, being struck by falling, flying, abrasive, or splashing objects, dusts being generated, electrical shock burns, falling, and possible death. Some of the general safety precautions for tools. The first important thing is to make sure that you consider your safety at all times when you're using the tool. Second of all, if you have any concerns about something, let your plant manager or supervisor know as far as the proper safe working procedure for the tool. Anything that's unsafe, again, you should report to your supervisor in the tool or any kind of working conditions that make it unsafe. Some of the other general safety precautions that are important for tools. Make sure the tool's kept in good working condition. Make sure it's maintained regularly. Make sure you use the right tool for the job. Whenever you're using a tool, just give it a quick inspection to make sure it's not damaged, including the parts of the tool that actually work and also the electrical parts for the tools. Don't try to repair a damaged tool yourself. Make sure that you take it to the maintenance area and see if they can repair it or just get a new one. Make sure you use proper PPE whenever you're using a tool, and then make sure the area that you're working in is clean and dry to make sure that you don't slip or trip when you're using the tool. PPE is obviously an important part of everybody's job. Make sure you have the right kind of PPE whenever you're using a tool. Guarding is an important part, obviously, in all the equipment that we have and also for the tools. Make sure that the guards are in proper condition and the proper place whenever you're using any kind of equipment, particularly a piece of power equipment like we're talking about. Some of the machine guards that we have are point of operation machine guards, nip point machine guards, rotating part machine guards, and anything that will protect from a flying chip or spark. Make sure that those guards are not removed when the equipment's running. Portable circular saws is a good example of where you have a guard on it. Make sure that it has a proper guard on it all the way around. So that's a good example of a guard. A lot of hopefully most of our tools are more modern. So most of the modern ones have a switch that controls it and shuts it off if you let go of the pressure. And that's typically the kind of tool that we have here. They can be locked on, and be just careful when you do that because you can lock it on and that can cause an additional hazard. Some power tools can have a positive on-off control switch. And that's one that can be a little bit more dangerous just because it can be left on by mistake. And then there's the third one is to talk a little bit about power tools such as circular saws that have a larger blade. They must be equipped to that first switch, which is a constant pressure switch. There are different kinds of hands and power tools. Obviously, you want to make sure you use the tool properly. So here's some examples of not using it properly. Using a screwdriver as a chisel, or using a chisel as a screwdriver. Using a hammer or an axe when it's damaged. That can make the tool actually fly off the handle and hurt somebody. Using a wrench improperly. Generally, if the wrench is in bad shape, throw it away. If anything else is wrong with it, again, replace it rather than use something that's not in good shape. Some more examples of things that you need to make sure are in decent shape when you're using them. Saw blades or knives should be used away from you rather than towards you, just like you learned in the Boy Scouts. Knives and scissors and blades should be kept sharp because it's safer to use a sharp blade than it is a dull blade. Anything that's cracked, like a cracked saw blade, obviously you should get rid of it. PPE should be used. And then we've talked about the hazards of flammables, flammable substances or combustible dust. And just remember that if you are using hand tools, you can generate dust that can, or sparks that can cause those to catch on fire. Power tools. There's different types of power tools. Generally, I think the ones that we're using are electric, but there are a bunch of different kinds of power tools. You should make sure that your power tool, if you're using it, has the right guards and safety switches on it. So anything that's damaged, we should not use. And make sure you use it properly. If you don't know how to use it, either find the manual for it or ask somebody how to use it properly. Some of the general rules are: don't carry the tool by the cord or the hose. Disconnect it when you're not using it. Make sure the cords and the hoses don't get cut on a sharp edge or heated up and melted. If you're using a smaller piece of material, you can use a clamp or a vise to secure the work that you're working on. Don't hold your finger on the power switch when you're carrying an energized tool. It'll turn on inadvertently. Make sure that you follow manufacturer guidelines as far as lubricating it or changing the accessories. And then make sure you use the right apparel for the job, which is pretty much the apparel that we use. So don't have loose clothing, ties, jewelry, things like that that can be caught in the moving parts. If something's dangerous or damaged, tag it out as do not use or put a note on it that's what's wrong with it. Specific training on electrical safety should be provided to the employees. So if you have a question about how to use the equipment properly, you should make sure you find out what the answer is. Pneumatic tools are powered by compressed air. That can include chippers, drills, hammers, sanders. The main danger of one of these is that compressed air, and that you can that it can come off, or that something can be projected out of the tool. Some more issues with pneumatic tools. Make sure the hose is not damaged so that air comes out of it. A safety clip or retainer should be on the pneumatic line to make sure that the attachment isn't ejected off of it. And then, as usual, eye protection, head and face protection you should use, and hearing protection if it's a loud piece of equipment. Pneumatic tools that shoot things like nails or rivets, you have to be careful with. You have to have a safety vise to prevent discharge unless the muzzle's pressed against the working surface. So generally that would be a newer tool and not an older one. Don't point compressed air guns at anybody, and you should use a screen or something if there's possibility of fragments coming out. Abrasive rules, that's like a grinding wheel. The biggest thing there is to make sure your grinding wheel is in decent shape. If it's pitted or in bad shape, there can be a hazard. It can actually fly apart when you're using it. Make sure the alignment's proper. You have to have the right distance on the work guards so that your finger doesn't get stuck in it. And make sure that they're in decent shape before you use them. If the wheel is turning, you shouldn't stand in the plane of the rotation of the wheel, so in case it does come apart. And they should be equipped with a safety guard so that the fragments, if they do come off, don't hurt you. You should always wear eye protection, safety glasses, face shield if you're using a grinding wheel. And then when it's not used, make sure you turn it off. And never clamp a handheld grinder into a vise. Jacks. We're not going to talk a lot about jacks, but just if you're using jacks, you need to make sure you use them properly, the way that they're designed, and that they should be. That's more of a specialty application, something that we don't typically do. that's about all I have. If you have any questions, let your plant manager know or let me know. Thanks.